Hello, today on Online for Authors, I'm chatting with Tess Callahan, author of Dawnland. Welcome, Tess.
Thank you, Terry. It's an honor to be here on Online for Authors.
It's wonderful to have you. I thoroughly enjoyed the book. There were several times I wanted to strangle characters, which is it's a good indication that you have me hooked, because I wanted to throttle them and say, what are you doing? But before we really dive into the book, can you give listeners an idea of what they're going to get when they open the cover?
Yes. So Dawnland is a one-week family reunion set on Cape Cod, in which some pretty tumultuous secrets come to light. This family is very good at avoidance, and over the years, some pretty significant things have gone under the rug. And although this is not a typical family that sits on the beach every day. They do whale watching and ocean kayaking and bike riding and charter fishing, almost as a way to avoid actually having to
Sitting on the beach, right?
confront each other. Nevertheless, the proverbial truth hits the fan this week, and kaboom.
Kaboom. Yes, definitely. Definitely. So if I had to give like a one-word definition of this story, it would be secrets, like with a capital S.
I think
right?
that's a good, yes.
Yeah. So why did you focus? What like led you to focus on family and personal secrets?
Well, I guess in part it comes from observation of life, and in my own family, not immediate family, but extended family, and ancestors. I've seen a lot of pain that comes out
Right.
from burying secrets, and often the secrets it's not even malice involved with burying the secrets, it's often shame.
Right.
And so let's not talk about this, or let's just pretend it never happened. And that doesn't work so well over time. And in fact, I think it affects subsequent generations, even if they never learn the secret. It sort of lives in them, or
Yeah.
the shame of the secret
Right.
lives in them, like some kind of unexpressed energy. So, yeah, I think I've heard you say on the podcast before, if you have a secret, just get it out there.
Just get it out. Like, oh my gosh, do that. Yeah. I know, for instance, my grandparents never celebrated their wedding anniversary my entire growing up. And they always said that my father was 2.5 months premature. And my father was born 7.5 pounds. And so you can be pretty certain that he was not 2.5 months premature. And when you look at when they got married, which, I now have a wedding certificate that you can go right online and find if you want to, there's no doubt that my grandmother was pregnant when they got married. And it affected them they never celebrated their wedding anniversary. They were married almost 70 years.
Wow.
And they never celebrated the golden 50 or the 60 or none of those things, because they couldn't really admit, even though they said he was premature, and they would agree. If you said, well, you were married in June, they wouldn't lie about that. But they'd never wanted to make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
Because to make a big deal out of it meant that then maybe someone would bring up the fact that, well, could Gary really have been premature? And so if you just didn't, you had put your story out there, and then you just never spoke about it again. Yeah. And I don't think it helps anything.
No. And it's a lot to carry over the years.
Yeah.
Over
definitely.
all those decades.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Another theme that was in the book, or not a theme, but something that was in the book, I noticed there was a lot of music. So we have Oliver as a musician, all of a sudden now I can't think of her name. Oliver and
well, April is the other protagonist.
April, thank you. That's it. My mind would just you'll have to forgive me.
You read a lot of books. It's okay, Terry.
but April's son is also really into music, right?
Yes,
and
Lachlan.
So right, Lachlan. So there's a lot of music involved. Is music something that plays a big part in your own life, or where did that idea come from?
I love that question. I am not a musician. I, in fact, did not grow up in a musical household, but I have that musical envy. I
Yeah.
think in some ways music is it's such a direct art form. You know, I love writing, I love visual art, I love all the arts, but music has a way of just piercing right
It,
to
yes.
the heart of things. And so I I admire musicians. For this book, I tried to get the facts right. I interviewed musicians, but I am not myself musical. But I so admire that form of carrying emotion. Even like if you think about a funeral, how sometimes the music can just carry the emotion in a way
Yes.
that words can't. And even within a book, like I'm thinking of Cormac McCarthy's The Road, which is one of the most horrific books I've ever read, and also the most beautiful. And I think it's because of the musicality of his writing. His writing is so lyrical that even though the content is brutal and at
Difficult.
times, it
Right.
has this musical quality that kind of carries and almost redeems the really heavy things going on.
Yeah.
So,
I know music will do that to me. There are certain songs that I hear that take me back.
mhm,
Like they mean something to me, or they'll remind me of a person, and you kind of hold on to that. There's a song in particular that reminds me of my grandmother, and
mm,
when I hear it, and I don't hear it very often anymore because it's not popular anymore, but when
mhm,
I hear it, I in my mind I say, "Hi, grandma." It's almost
yeah,
like I feel like she's there, like
yeah.
she's there reminding me, "Hey, remember all the love and the things that we shared together." So I do like that idea of the music. And then the music also plays a role in that they were calling to the whales
Mm.
with
I love what
music.
you're noticing about the book, Terry. I really appreciate that.
So, what was the instrument used? I had never heard of it. What
Mhm.
was the instrument used to call the whales?
It's called a waterphone, and an alternate name for it is an ocean harp, and
Mhm.
it's a very bizarre kind of instrument. It's, brass rods with has liquid in it, and you tilt it sort of on your knee, and you hit it with you can
Like a
either
like
stroke
a
it
mallet?
with, like, a mallet, or you can
Yep.
stroke it with, like, a bow. And it
Okay.
makes a wide variety of sounds. It has a lot of reverberation. So you do hear it sometimes in horror films because it can make this very dark, creepy sound, but it can also have this very ethereal sound that does actually, to me, sound like whale song. And it carries, it's very kind of mystical
Yeah.
sound.
So when you were talking about it, I was trying to in my mind, it was like a water harp. What does this even look like? So then
Mhm.
when I looked it up, because that's me, I'm a research junkie and I have to know. And I saw the picture of it, it was like, is that really what she's describing? Because I had trouble looking at that picture and then imagining the sound that would come from that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
the
how did
sound
you
and the image of it don't quite match up,
no,
do they?
they don't. So how did you even learn about a water harp? Or no, not a water harp. What did you call it? An ocean harp.
An ocean harp or a
Water
waterphone, those are the
water phone.
2
Yeah,
2 words.
how did you even hear about something like that?
Oh, that's such a great question. I don't know how I stumbled upon it originally. I think it was one of those, rabbit holes on
Yes.
YouTube,
Yeah, I know rabbit holes.
and, as soon as I heard it, I was working on the book, and I thought, "Oh my god, that's it. That's the sound."
Don't
Yeah.
you love it when you're working on a book and you're doing research and you come upon the thing,
Mhm.
whatever that is, and it's like, "Oh, that's gonna move my story forward." And
Yeah.
you know that out of the hours of research you've done and all of these facts that you have found, that this is the one that's
Mhm.
going to like I love it when that happens. And then my mind just almost explodes with, "Ooh, what am I gonna do with this piece of information?" So,
Right, and if you kind of hold the question out there, like, "What is the instrument? What is it?" I find if I just kind of hold it out there in an open way without searching too
right,
hard or grasping it comes to me. It comes
right,
to me on its own,
right.
which is delightful.
I love it. I absolutely love that. So I have to know, are you a plotter or a pantser?
Yes, this question, I I have a little aversion to the categories, I have to say.
No, that's all right. So tell me about that.
But I
Explain
think
that.
it's a great question. So, the plotter being the person who plans everything out, which I think is probably necessary for a lot of genre fiction, I
Mhm.
imagine, and the pantser being the fly by the seat of your
See
pants
your
kind of
pants,
thing.
right?
And I think of myself more like, I was trying to think of the right word for this. Maybe I'm picturing like a migrating bird, right?
Mhm.
Um, who the bird maybe has never made this migration before. So does the goose or the hummingbird, I mean, there's so many birds that migrate, does it know where it's going? Or a whale for that matter, all these species
Right.
that migrate, do they know where they're going? There's some kind of inner GPS, right? And it has to do with the electromagnetic field of the earth, and some species migrate by stars. And so something in them knows where they're
Knows where to
going.
go. Right.
But is it a literal thing? I no, actually, because they've never done it before.
Right.
So I think of myself, maybe it's a flapper, like a bird flapping, just one wing beat at a time. Do I know
Right.
where the next wing beat is going to be? No, but something in me is leading me. So
Right.
I guess in the spectrum of things, I'm closer to a pantser, I would
Closer
say.
to a pantser, but I think that you hit on something not many people talk about. And, as an author, even if we don't really know where our story is going next, we do kind of know where stories go. So you
Yeah.
kind of know. I'll be writing and realize something needs to be happening here. Like you just know it's time. It's time for the
Mhm.
next thing to happen. This is where, oh yeah, that twist, it needs to be now. And
Mhm.
so maybe that's what you're talking about, is more of an understanding of literature, even if it isn't that you took a million classes, as much as it's just, you have that inner sense of what makes a good story.
Mhm.
And
Right.
because I have that understanding of what makes a good story, I know where to go next.
Yeah. So it's more of an intuitive thing.
Yeah,
Not
at
that I
least.
don't need to make course corrections,
Oh no, I'm always making course corrections. So that's yes, I kind of tell people that I'm I'm not. I say that you probably shouldn't follow what I do, because I am definitely a pantser, and I do um, binge pantsing. Um,
That's a good
I
expression.
I I don't write every day. I don't sit down every day to write, because I don't have something to say every day. And some days I'm not in the right mood. And if I sit down to write in a mood like that, I'm going to throw everything away. And I don't feel like I have that kind of time to waste.
Mhm.
And so I think about it, and it stews and brews and does its thing. And all of a sudden I'll think, I need to write. And then I might write for hours,
Mm.
and so much for dinner. And so much for laundry, and don't need me right now, I'm writing, and then maybe I
Mhm.
won't do that again for a while, and
Mhm.
things are stewing and brewing and whatnot. And so yeah, I tell people, don't follow my pattern. It's probably not considered the best, but it works for me.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think there's something to be said for the stewing, for
yes.
sure. When
Yes.
I'm walking, that's
Yeah.
part of my writing. Even dreaming,
Yeah.
even like when I open my eyes in the morning before I get out of bed, that's all part of the writing for
and i
sure.
and I'm sometimes working out plot issues, and I don't even realize I'm doing it.
Mhm.
And I'll be running a scene through my head and realize that isn't going to work. And so
Mhm.
I kind of like back it up and I try something else. And it's like, yeah, that really doesn't, it works, but it doesn't send me. And you back it up again. And so I'm writing without actual putting it down on paper, reading it and deciding I don't like it. I just kind of run it in my head. And I do it walking too. Where do you like to walk?
Well, right now I'm in Cape Cod. I'm actually in the house where the novel takes place.
Fantastic.
So, I walk through the fire roads, down the trails here to the dune cliff, or just right out on the beach.
So is that where
I
you live all full time?
I'm part-time here. I also live in New Jersey.
Okay.
So in New Jersey, we have a river behind our house,
So you're
um,
water like I am.
yes.
Yeah. So I live on the coast of North Carolina. I don't live on the coast, but I live at the coast, and I love to go walk down on the beach. And walking along the beach, I get my best ideas. Things just, I don't know, there's something about the sound and the smell and the way the wind pulls against your face. And there's just something about all of that just brings out whatever that piece is that's hidden in me that has my stories. And all of a sudden it's
and
like,
it clears out the other stuff.
it
So it
does.
makes room for
I
the
think that's what it is. It's
yeah.
almost like I can feel the breeze just blowing away the stuff that doesn't belong there. And then you're left with this clarity of, I know what to do next. And I do that in life too. There are times where I feel like my life is out of control, and I go down to the beach, and I feel bad for the people walking behind me who are probably catching all of the stuff that's blowing off of me. I should probably put a sign on me that says, stay back 100 yards or something, but
we all have stuff rolling off us for sure.
We do. And I say, if I get in the ocean, then you're really in trouble because it's just floating everywhere. But so how much research went into this book?
I would say most of the research was, I guess you'd say, inner research, mining memories, my own experiences, the scraps of information about extended members of my family, friends. But I did do some actual research around marine life, around erosion, around the topography of Cape Cod. Even though I live here and the setting is, intimately familiar to me, I just wanted to get the details right so that some oceanographer didn't email me and say, hey, the waves are going the wrong direction.
Yeah. I feel the same way when I'm writing. I try to be, I tell people that I'm an author first, but I also do try to, if I have a setting that's real, I want it to be as factual as I can. I'm not going to give you all the facts, but it's the facts that I do give, I want them to be real. I don't want someone to walk away having an impression of an area and then going to see it themselves later and saying, well, this isn't it. This is not what the author said at all. I think it because I feel that way. I've read books before where one was a historical fiction. I loved the book, absolutely loved it. I get to the end, and in the author's notes at the very end, she explains that the whole ending, which is the part I loved the most, that I thought was real because I knew that the person she was talking about was real, was made up. And it was just like, and that she knew the real ending. And then she explained the real ending, and I thought, so I'm more of anything that's real is real.
Right.
And if I'm making things up, it's about a character who is of my imagination anyway. And so I can have that character do something. But if it's someone or something that is real in life, I try to keep it as close to what we understand about that person or that place as possible.
Right. Because you don't want the reader to be popping out of the fictional dream to question things.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want them, running off to Google to find out if that's really real, I love that. My favorite character is Beryl.
Oh, I'm delighted to hear that.
Yes. And she's a little side character. She really isn't seen that often. But boy, when she is, she packs a punch. It's like she's the only one in the family who sees things as they are and is willing to say it out loud. And she'll say things and everybody in the room kind of like deer in the headlights, right? Like, oh, she's touching on the sore spot. And then everybody tries real hard to like cover it up or to like make her shut up.
She has no filters.
No filter. And I think that, I don't know, she was so refreshing in this secretive family.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that. I don't think the story could have happened without her because her role in the story, the vacation takes place at the home of the patriarch of this family, this widow. He lives here in Cape Cod. So his two sons come to visit with their wives and their teenagers. And this widow of 25 years, the patriarch of the family, is engaged to be married to Beryl. So Beryl is the outsider. She's
Right.
meeting everyone for the first time. So you're right. She has the clear lens. Plus, she has no filter. So
None.
she's the one
None.
that's throwing bombs into the conversation that really dislodges these secrets. So I
That
appreciate that
were
observation.
Yeah, the secrets were so on the surface, and this was going to be a very tough week without Beryl. This was going to be a week where it was going to take everything they had to continue the pretense.
Mm-hmm.
And then she steps in and just kind of like, oh, so I see. Everybody's like, oh,
She just rips the lid off the pretense.
yeah. And I think that that's why I liked her so much, was just watching the reactions of people that seem to have it all together. And then she makes a statement and you can see them unraveling right before your eyes. And then the other one that I loved was the patriarch, who seemed so clueless.
Mm-hmm.
Which just kind of blew my mind, that he was that clueless, and second, that he would marry a woman who was that unfiltered.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about, like, his life will never be the same once he's with her. He'll never be clueless again, because she's going to clue him in from right away.
Sometimes it happens that way, right? I mean, the trope would be opposites attract, but sometimes
Right.
you kind of know what your deficit is, and you're drawn to that person who's going to be a corrective for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, who was your favorite character?
Oh, that's
I know it's like picking your favorite
it's
child,
like
right?
Sophie's choice.
Yes.
Well, April, I guess I see as the main protagonist, and some people, readers, yes, like as you said in the beginning of this interview, want to strangle her at certain points.
Yeah.
More so in the first book, April and Oliver, which is the same. It's a standalone sequel, but you don't have to have read it. So I relate to her bumbling through life and living a large part of her early life sort of on autopilot, of behaving in ways that are normal for her because it's what's been modeled for her, but are
Right.
not really healthy, and takes her a lot, including connection with others and confrontation with Oliver, to kind of jar her out of those patterns and decide to take agency in her
Right.
life.
Right.
And and my heart's with her. But
So when I said I wanted to strangle characters, it didn't mean I didn't like them and love them and want to see them succeed. But there were times they would fall into their bad pattern again, and I would think, now is the time.
yeah,
Now, what are you waiting on?
yeah,
Or oh, for goodness sakes, because there were so many things that a conversation, a real conversation in which you explained what you were feeling and what was going on, would have changed the course of lives.
mm-hmm.
And over and over, the wrong choice was made. Over and over. And it was just like, oh my gosh, how many times can you be given the opportunity to fix it and still just keep hanging on to these bad choices? Like, oh my gosh,
Yes,
yes, you made a bad choice, but you don't have to keep living it this many years later.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
This could have been fixed. And I think that's the part. It like I said, it was frustrating only because part of me understood what she was doing, and part of me very much wanted her to have a happy life.
mm-hmm.
I wanted her to be happy, and I kept thinking, you're not doing it. You're not helping yourself here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. She does step into her power
yes,
eventually,
she
and
does.
I think, I think of it. I mean, personally, I see humans as generally doing this kind of thing, like repeating patterns and
Yes,
not taking opportunity of moments to step out of those patterns. And I think of it as, we come into this life and we have certain doors to walk through or portals to walk through. And life gives us lots of opportunities to do it. And we can say no, and we can keep saying no. But eventually, if we keep saying no, the door comes to us. And
right.
it might come in not a very nice way. it's better if we, through our own volition, decide to embrace whatever it is we know we need to
Right.
confront.
Right. I absolutely agree. Now, I believe that I read that you have a dual citizenship, Ireland and United States. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
How did
right.
that come about? I just have to know.
Well, my 3 of my 4 grandparents were Irish.
Hmm.
My mother was completely Irish, and we visited we had relatives there. So from the time I was a kid, we visited the farm that my grandfather was born in is still in the family. So the place has always been very dear to me. And after my mom passed a few years ago, I I realized I could do it through any one of my grandparents. I could apply through them.
Hmm.
So I thought I didn't do it because I really planned to live there. I just was symbolically meaningful to me. When I
Yeah.
go there, and there's a scene from Ireland in the book,
Yes.
I just feel a connection to the land. I just feel at home, even though it's not literally my home. It's a very hard to explain, but um, I just feel a deep, deep connection with the landscape there. So
Hmm.
I went ahead with the application. It took about 2 years, also because of at that time, because of Brexit, a lot of people from the UK were trying to get Irish citizenship to be part of the EU and be able to still travel across borders freely. So it took a while,
Yeah.
and then it happened. I'm really pleased to just have it as a symbolic part of who I am.
I love that. I wasn't sure if it was one of these situations where you were, a U.S. citizen born in Ireland, and therefore you had, dual, or how that worked. So I
Mhm,
think that's interesting, and I loved that you had a little nod to your Irish heritage in the book as well.
mhm,
Um, we have the one week scene
mhm.
that is beautiful and amazing, and then it ends, and from that point on it's like horrible decisions, horrible decisions. I just there were times where I was reading where I thought, how many secrets can one family have,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, no, it's a horrible decision. I mean, that week is life-changing week, right, for
Yes.
April and Oliver.
Yeah.
And I think, for her, because of her background, the question was for her, like, "Am I worthy? Do I
Right.
deserve happiness? And
She
if
decides
someone loves
no.
me, something must be wrong with them."
Right. Right. Right.
Um,
Or they faked it. They're not really loving me. This was
she
just for a week. It was for a happy week. And
Right.
as soon as I'm out of the picture, as soon as I get on the plane, I'm nothing again.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Oliver fed right into that with
Mhm.
his next few moves,
They both
and
made terrible decisions.
they both, and then from that point on, like, neither one of them were willing to they didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
15 years goes by, they never even bring it up, and it's like, how can you I was just kind of appalled by the secrets. I was just
Mhm.
I loved the story, but I kept thinking, "Oh, people, have a sit down. A good sit down and a talk is going to fix so much of this."
Yeah. I have
So,
to say, like, down through the Callahan line, there is a lot of, people never talking to each other, like, literally never talking to each other again over, things that I mean, it's always a surface level thing,
right,
right? The
right.
disagreement. And so that brings a lot of pain on the subsequent generations. I think
It
it just
does.
tears people apart. And it's not in a way, it's lacking the tools,
Yes.
for communication, and also the self-worth, the confidence to just say,
And I
"Hey,"
think there's a little bit of fear. I mean, there's a fear involved when you're having to make a change. So if you're having to change what you normally do for something new, there's that fear
Yes,
that it isn't going to go well, that
right.
you're going to be left looking like the fool,
Mhm.
you know, that what you thought was hidden is now everyone's going to point their fingers at you, and you're going to be the one ostracized or whatever it is. So there's that kind of fear.
Mhm.
Um yeah, and I think that sometimes the facing up to whatever it is, there's a reason that you hid something, and now you're going to have to pull it out of the closet,
Yes.
dust it off, face it.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it's like, isn't it easier in the closet? And it's not, but it feels that way, you know?
It does feel that way for the moment, yes. It's like
Yeah.
in Carl Jung parlance, in Jungian psychology, it would be the shadow, that
Yes.
we just prefer to keep in the closet. But
Yeah.
really, it's our own lost life energy, When we
Right.
reclaim that, we become more whole and revitalized.
Well, and think about the amount of energy you waste keeping it at bay.
Mhm.
The stories you have to tell, the lies you have to remember, the thing that you're making yourself be despite not really being that thing, in order to cover up whatever it is. That amount of energy, when you are no longer putting it into hiding, think of all the things you can do with it.
Yes, so true.
Like go write a book, go create the next best composition, write a song, because like the things that you have the energy for, because you're not spending it all
Yes.
keeping something from someone.
Right,
So
it's like armor. It takes a
yeah,
lot of energy to walk around with a suit of armor on. It's very heavy.
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So like shed it, folks.
Yeah.
Get rid of the secrets. I'm curious, what is coming up next for you, Tess?
Writing-wise, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Or
So
anywise.
I do have a third book that I am finishing up now. It is not the same characters, um, and it's not the same setting, but thematically, there are some similarities in terms of stepping out of old patterns and having agency over one's
Yeah.
life. There's also it's a um, it's a foreign setting, and it's a life and death scenario. So I'm really enjoying writing it.
Oh,
I'm deeply into
fantastic.
the fictional dream of it right now.
So when Amazon has to, put a genre on this book, and they always do, they have to categorize it in some way. Where is it going?
I would say, like my first two books, it's literary fiction. However, this one also has a historical backdrop,
Okay.
and it's not romance for sure, but it is a love story.
Yeah.
So, which I think is a little bit similar to what you've written, right?
Yeah, and that's
Historical with
so
some,
it's a historical with love story. I have a
yeah.
lot of people, in fact, An Enemy Like Me won in a romance category, which blew my mind because it's not a romance. If you're looking for romance, you're going to be dissatisfied with this book
Hmm.
because it doesn't follow the romance trope, but
Yeah.
there is a love story,
Hmm.
and there's very much a love story. And in your book, Dawnland, there is a love story as well. I mean, you see the love story that's in there, but it isn't your true romance,
Right. So
And
two of
so,
my two favorite books of mine are Atonement by Ian McEwan,
mhm,
which also has a historical backdrop and a love story, an unconventional love story,
yeah,
and All the Light We Cannot
we
See by
cannot
Anthony
see.
Doerr,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
also has a big stage in terms of the historical events,
right.
and it's also a very unusual, such a compelling love story.
Love story. Yeah, yeah. I think I love adding a romantic element, but I don't really like being put into a genre because I don't fit into boxes very well. And I
Mhm.
don't like playing. I tell people I don't play by the rules. Um, and I often say that I don't work well in groups because I don't play well with others. And it's not that I do get along with people and I enjoy people. I think I have trouble following whatever rules are set up because my idea is going somewhere else and I don't like feeling trapped.
Yeah.
And so I like the ability to, say, well, it has a romantic element to it. And then I can do what I want.
Yeah. There's this irony in publishing where, um, yeah, there's always the boxes. Where do you
Yes.
belong?
Right.
And
Right.
we don't know how to publish this because we don't know what to
What box
call
to
it.
check.
Yeah.
Right.
And at the same time, publishers are looking for that breakout book that
Right.
crosses genres. So for the writer, it's just, I find I just have to completely ignore all of that
So
and
do I.
just write
I
the story
write
that's
what
in
I
you.
write, and then when
Yeah.
I'm done, I look and say, okay, what boxes am I going to check for it?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really fit neatly into any of them. And it's often a cross between, well, it's kind of historical fiction and some women's fiction with a little side of romance. I don't know what. And it's interesting, the number of authors that I'm speaking to on this show, who are the more independent author or, a small press author, often fall into that. I don't write with a genre in mind, and I don't really know what to call it. And I'm feeling like more and more that's what's coming out of people. And you're right, they're not the ones who are being picked up by the big publishing houses who want a romance or who want a thriller or who want a, that they can obviously label it. This is where we're putting it. And so I don't know. That's one of the reasons why I tell people they should listen to or read these independent authors, people who haven't made the New York Times bestsellers list. And trust me, I'm not saying I wouldn't be happy to be there. I'm just saying that there's a lot more out there. And that if you only stick to a list like that, you're going to miss a breadth of amazing authors and amazing stories.
Right. And there are new genres being created, now there's romantasy,
Right.
And that would not have happened if somebody didn't decide, you know what, I don't want to have to choose between fantasy and romance.
Exactly. I didn't think that this is what I'm writing is something new. And so I do love that idea. I do want to let you know, folks, that if you love this conversation, you need to head on over to Novels and Latte Book Club on Facebook. As a member of this amazing book community, you're going to have an opportunity to win a signed copy of Tess's book. So head on over today. The links will be in the show notes. Tess, if someone wanted to get up with you today, talk to you about your book, talk with you about other things that you're writing, how would they do that?
My website, tesscallahan.com, is the best way to find me. I have a contact page there. I love to hear from readers. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook. I'm pretty easy to find.
Super. And I'll have those links in the show notes as well. Tess, I want to thank you so much for being on today. I have enjoyed chatting with you, and I really enjoyed your book.
Thank you so much, Terry. It's really an honor to talk with you, and I appreciate how deeply you read it and the wonderful questions, and good luck with your own wonderful writing.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Online for Authors, where I, Terry M. Brown, author of character-driven fiction and host of the podcast, introduce readers to characters they'd love to invite to lunch. Tune in next Tuesday for another podcast episode.